Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we are inside of Affinity Publisher V2, and in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how you can easily add rounded corners to your tables. So if this is something you would like to learn, then let's go ahead and get started. So if any of you guys are completely brand new to Affinity Publisher and haven't used the table tool in order to create yourself a table like we have on the screen in front of us, where you can see I've got all of these individual cells and columns, and I've color coded all of these to make it look a little bit more stylish, then go ahead and check out the video. I will link in the top right hand corner now, where I will take you through all of the steps to create yourself a table kind of like this one. But moving on with this tutorial, if I just go ahead and I select my table, which I've created right here from my gym planner, you can see over on the left hand side inside of our table menu, we have many different options inside of here where we can change various parameters inside of our table, such as our borders or the inset for our text, or our alignment options, etc. However, the one thing that you can't do inside of this menu is add rounded corners to our table, and that is because it's not an official feature that is available inside of Affinity Publisher, and we do have to use a little bit of a workaround, which is what I'm going to show you in today's tutorial. So if I just quickly deselect the table, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you guys can see that better. At the moment, you can see that all of our corners are completely straight, and this is not the effect that we want to go for. We want to have this rounded to any kind of degree that you guys would like. So in order to achieve this, it really is quite straightforward and simple. What I'm going to do first of all is hit Command or Control 0 just to fit to screen. Then I'm going to make my way over to the left hand side toolbar menu, and inside of here I'm going to select the rectangle tool. And all we have to do with the rectangle tool is to draw out a rectangle which is going to be the exact same size as any table that you have created. So if I just head up to the top left hand corner here and I let that snap into place using that red and that green line, all I'm going to do is start to drag out my rectangle to be as big as my table and let that snap at the bottom and over to the right hand side. So with our rectangle now created, all we got to do next is head over to our layers over on the right hand side. And we need to locate our table, and for me it's this layer right here at the bottom, so I'm going to go ahead and select that one. Then what we want to do next is we want to drag this up and we want to drop that inside of our rectangle that we just created. So once that's highlighted blue just like that, go ahead and let go of it. And now that has placed our table inside of our rectangle, which we can see if we just open up that drop down menu. This layer on top is our rectangle and this layer inside is our table. So with our rectangle layer selected and not our table, what we can do next is head up to the top context menu bar, just up here where it says corner. Then just to the right hand side of this, we have this drop down menu where we can go ahead and choose rounded. And if I just quickly deselect this, you can now see that we have these large rounded corners on our table. And we do need to come back and adjust these as they're cutting off most of our text. So we need to make them a little bit smaller. And the way that we would do that is by heading back over to our layers on the right hand side. We need to make sure that we select the rectangle layer and not the table layer inside of that. So with the rectangle layer selected, if we make our way back up to the top context menu bar and we just pay attention to the radius option right here, where we can either move our slider to the left or the right to make that bigger or smaller with our corners, then all you got to do is fine adjust that to make sure that you can fit all of your text in. So even at 10%, if I look at the bottom of my table, I've still not got all of that text in. So I have to make that a little bit smaller till I can make sure I get all of that leg in there. So somewhere for me around that 3% will be perfect. So now I can go and just deselect that, and that is what we are left with. And now we have the rounded corners on all four corners of this. And I'll just zoom in real quick so you guys can see it a little bit better. And you can see I've adjusted my radius to make sure that it doesn't cut off any of this writing right here. However, I can always go back in and make that bigger or smaller once again using that radius option. But for this design, I think 3% was perfect. So I'm just going to zoom back out with Command or Control 0 to fit to screen while I talk about one more thing which is going to be important. And that is going to be editing your table and maybe taking away or adding extra cells or columns. So for example, if I go back over to the right hand side and I select my table, then I'm going to make my way back over to the left hand side toolbar menu and select my table tool. And if I decide that I want to start adding or removing any additional rows or columns, just like maybe taking out a few of these at the bottom down here, and I'll go and deselect that. You can see looking at our design, it still looks perfectly fine at the top here with our rounded corners. However, towards the bottom of our table, they're no longer rounded right here. In fact, it's still rounded on our rectangle just towards the bottom there, which doesn't look too good for our design on our table. So what we need to do to fix that is we just got to adjust the size of our rectangle. And the way that we would do that is by going back over to the right hand side layers, and we're going to select our table. Then temporarily, we just need to drag our table back outside of our rectangle, or go ahead and drop that. Then we'll go and select our rectangle. And now we just need to go down here towards the bottom and grab this node right there and just drag that up and let that snap into place of our table, just like that. And then back over to our layers on the right hand side, select our table and go and drop that back inside of our rectangle. And now that solves that problem that we just had. And as long as you always have your rectangle selected, you can always come back and change the radius of your corners if you want to. Or select your table and start removing or adding any columns if you'd like to. Go ahead and take those ones out as well. And then we're back to the same problem we had before. So just drag your table back out the rectangle. Go select your rectangle. Adjust that like we did before to fit the table. Just let that snap into place. Go ahead and drop that back inside the rectangle. And it really is as easy as that. And we also have the option to change the width of the stroke on your rectangle if you like. That's entirely up to you. So you're not restricted to using a rectangle if you don't want to. You can actually add this inside of any shape that you would like. So I'll go ahead and just put that back to the beginning. So for instance, if we go back over to the left hand side and we select ourselves a different shape, you can go for anything that you like inside of here. Maybe that love heart down the bottom, and go ahead and just draw that out to any size that you would like. Then once again, over in the layers, just get your table and drag that inside of your heart. This isn't going to look very good, but of course you can go ahead and create something that looks a little bit better. This wouldn't look too bad if you maybe just take away that stroke and you remove all of this text inside of that part of the table, and you had all of these different colored cells. However, this is probably something I wouldn't use in the design myself, but the option is there if you want to go ahead and put your table inside of another shape. However, one more thing that you could do just to make this look that little bit more creative is just apply some effects to this. So if we go back over to the right hand side at the bottom of our layers and we select our effects panel, we can maybe just put a drop shadow on this and give that a radius of maybe 10 pixels and the offset of 10 pixels. Go ahead and hit enter, and then just see what we are left with. So that doesn't look too bad, and it's always good to put a little drop shadow in any tables that you create just to make it look that little bit more artistic. So that is it for today's video. I hope you found this useful and you've learned something new, and I will see you in the next one.